Welcome back to this bonus episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. We're going to be talking to Ivy Baremore, who's part of the MarAlliance, who recently collaborated with our very own Dr. David Ebert to do a workshop on shark identification of deep sea sharks. We're going to talk about that on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast, not the How to Protect the Ocean podcast, the Beyond Jaws podcast, which is about to say, let's start the show. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. I am your co-host, Andrew Lewin, here with my co-host, Dr. David Ebert. And Dave, this is kind of a special show. Last show, you were the focus of the show. Now you're like the half focus of the show because you did a workshop with Ivy, and we're going to be talking a lot about that workshop. So kind of set the scene for us in terms of what people should know about this workshop.
Well, I do these workshops. I've been doing these for a long time, for decades, but and Ivy and I have been talking about this one for about a decade. And nice. When coincidentally, it just happened to be after I came off this month-long trip to Madagascar. But anyway,
it pours.
Yeah, it does. But you know, they're really important running these identification workshops like I do, because it really helps lay the foundation for, you know, countries if they want to develop, you know, international plans of action for sharks and rays in their country. It's like I always look at like building a building. You got to lay the foundation first, and the foundation is what species do you have there, and be able to train people in country to identify stuff is really where it all starts. And because I have this expertise, I've been doing this for a long time. I go to a lot of these countries, meet a lot of the young people, you know, get to network with them and train them on how to do basic identification of sharks and rays. And it's something that we talk about we'll talk about in the episode, is like, it has an impact because young people can do something, developing checklists and stuff, and it can have an immediate impact right away as far as helping develop a conservation and fishery management policy.
Well, I think it's really important too, because as you mentioned in a number of different episodes that we've mentioned, is people don't know a lot about sharks in their own countries, and it's just because they just haven't had the training or they haven't had the need for it at that point. And then when you are able to do these workshops and you're able to share it with just the skills and the experience that you need to go through something like this to be able to identify in the future. Look, we probably, and some of these people are students that are looking to do marine biology of some sort, probably get into shark biology. You might be helping to take a career off to, basically looking at a career to take off in deep sea sharks within Honduras in this country, which I think is amazing. So I'm looking forward to getting into the interview. So here's the interview with Ivy Baremore from MarAlliance talking about the deep sea shark identification workshop. We enjoy the interview, and we'll talk to you after. Hey, Ivy, welcome back to the Beyond Jaws podcast. Are you ready to talk about sharks?
I'm always ready to talk about sharks. Great to be here.
Love it. Welcome to the Beyond Jaws podcast, where we have the fabulous Dr. Ivy Baremore back on for a bonus episode here today. Ivy, as you might recall, was on episode 77 last year in September of 2024, where she talked about her journey as a shark researcher and conservationist. And Ivy, just to refresh your memory, has a PhD from University of Exeter, as well as an MSc from the University of Florida, and a BSc from University of Florida State. She's the science coordinator for MarAlliance, which is an organization founded by our friend Rachel Graham, who also appeared on the show way back on episode 17 in March of 2022. And Ivy here is today to talk about a workshop that she organized that took place the week of October 20th in Honduras. And yours truly was also involved in that as well. But we'll talk about how the importance of these workshops are for teaching people how to identify stuff. And Ivy, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much. And thanks for having me back.
Great. So why don't you tell us about what's sort of the genesis of the workshop and everything?
Well, this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and you and I have been talking about this for a long time, since I kind of first sent you a picture of a deep sea shark that I caught. I think it's been about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
said, "Hey, what is this?" Which I think happens to you quite often. But I was lucky this year to get a fellowship from the Ross Robertson Research Award for Field Studies on neotropical deep reef fishes. Very long title on that one. And as part of that fellowship, I included some funds for a regional taxonomy workshop because of the conversations that we've had and I've had with other people around the world on some of these species that we're catching that we just kind of keep bumping up against and not quite being able to really nail down what we've got, and kind of realizing that this is a very understudied region and there's very few opportunities for local researchers to actually see any of these species that exist in their backyard. So we thought it would be just a really great opportunity to kind of raise awareness of what we have here, but then also try to maybe start to put a little bit of a pin in the species that we've got, because we're still, I'm still kind of back where I started on identifying some of these deep water species, shark species that we've been catching in Belize and here in Honduras as well.
Yeah, I was going to say it was pretty. It was an extremely enthusiastic group of people, young people you had there, which is always great to see. You get people that are just excited about it, because Honduras doesn't, like a lot of the Central American countries, doesn't really have a long history of shark research in the country. And they have you have to give me the number, but it's like a reasonable coastline in the Caribbean, but the very small coastline in the Pacific. Exactly. Correct. So it's most of the action's going to be more in the Caribbean side.
Yes, exactly. And the Caribbean side also, Honduras actually has more water than land. The economic exclusive zone, I couldn't give you the exact number, but it is actually more than the square kilometers for the land that is within the country. Most of that is in the deep sea. But it's a huge territory, and very little of it has been explored, even with the bathymetry maps aren't very good, and it encompasses part of the Cayman Trench as well. So there's just no telling what's out there.
Right. Yeah. Well, you have now when you start, so you've been in Honduras now for what? Have been about close to 10 years. You've been in Honduras now.
I've been in Honduras for 6 years, and before that, I was in Belize for about 5 to 6 years.
Okay. So how do you're operating in a country where obviously you're expert in chondrichthyans and sharks and rays, but you're working in a country that doesn't have like a history or tradition of people doing that. How'd you go about finding the participants for the workshop?
Well, fortunately, our country coordinator, Ana Lucia Lopez, is well connected. Our research officer, Sobeda Nunez, is also, we hosted the workshop in Tela, which is where she's based. I'm in the Bay Islands. I'm in Roatan, so we're all, and Ana Lucia is in the capital city. So we're all spread out. We don't actually have an office together. So we just put together our resources. Sobeda's worked with a lot of different organizations. Ana Lucia knows a lot of people that are at the universities. So we knew that we wanted to invite a sort of a broad range of people, not just the scientists and not just managers, but we also wanted to extend the invitation to lay people, shark enthusiasts who might get something out of this, just to have a more broad understanding, but also enthusiasm. It is great, scientists are all great, and managers and everything, but it's very brass tacks. But having people who students, we had both university students and a young man who is 13 years old, so he was the high school student who actually participated in the entire workshop. And so getting that kind of enthusiasm, and also people who don't work who aren't necessarily professional scientists, have a totally different perspective on conservation and biology. And often I think what happens when you talk to people who aren't kind of in your world, you get questions and perspectives that you don't necessarily get otherwise. And so it's really nice to be able to speak to other people who have a totally different perspective, who might then, open up different ideas and other ways of looking at questions.
And you had people from the diving community, for example, also involved in the thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And they were great, because we did a field trip. We did go out and try to catch some of the deep sea sharks, the Gulper sharks that occur near Tela. Unfortunately, we didn't have any luck. We were only out for about 3 hours. And if you've ever been sharking, or especially for deep sea, you know, that's not really very much time.
Yeah.
But they supported us with we were able to go out with the dive company on their boats. And, you know, they love sharks too. They want to see sharks. That's something that's super exciting. When they go diving, they want to see sharks. And so having them there to talk to us and be able to basically have access to people. I think a lot of people have an idea that scientists are kind of stuffy and unapproachable. Yeah. But the fact that, you know, we were there just chatting, and they you know, all took out their phones and were like, what, you know, this is where we see this one, and this is where we see this one. What do you think this one is? You know, being able to have those kinds of conversations I think it really changes people's minds about what science is and how approachable. And it also makes it things like citizen science, and increases our ability to talk with citizen scientists and to get more information that we wouldn't necessarily get otherwise.
Now with the people there, so you had quite, and like you said, you mentioned you had like a 13-year-old high school student there, which was pretty amazing. He was a pretty enthusiastic young guy, and that's kind of really the future for Honduras. Exactly. Even though pretty much, I think everybody else you had there was pretty much under 30 years old, which really makes you feel old. They
were like, "Woo, let's go out!
Yeah, woo, let's go out. Let's go have some fun." I'm like, "Oh no, not me, man." I'm like, I got to get up and work tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, but it was really good, and it was interesting talking to a lot of them because they seemed pretty enthusiastic, and I think that really came out when we were doing some of the necropsies, doing some of the dissections and some of the different sharks that you saved and collected over the recent few months. Just seeing how excited they were to actually look at these things.
Me too. I was, you know, you never really know how people are going to react in a dissection. And, you know, sharks, you know, they've been in a freezer for a little while. They're a little smelly, you know, and when these sharks, the deep sea sharks, also, they have these very oily livers. And so there's a lot of, you know, it's just, you have to really get your hands dirty, even with gloves. You have to kind of just get in there. And boy, did they get in there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of poking and prodding. One of the university students dissected the heart and wanted to keep, because it was such a fascinating thing for her. So she asked if she could keep the heart. Yeah, you can keep the heart.
Yeah.
And, you know, and being able to show in person, you know, reading on a slide or a textbook about the different modes of reproduction is one thing, but actually having like an embryo of a shark that you can actually hold in your hand is something that is, I think most people don't get to. It's
life-changing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's life-changing.
It was, I think they were really excited.
I think it was kind of fun the first day, and they had to identify the sharks there by species. And with a couple of Gulper sharks, we were having they came up with a couple of different species that you and I pretty much thought that was correct, what they came up with. And then, of course, the next day when we started going through, we realized there seems to be a problem there.
Well, it goes to show the challenging part of identifying sharks, right? That's
cool.
And especially these species, the Gulper sharks, which have been hounding me.
Yeah, I mean, they gave them the species of Gulper sharks are one of the hardest groups taxonomically to identify. Believe me, I've been working on this with Will White for now going on 20 years, trying to sort them out. And I was pretty convinced we had like at least 2 different species there. But after we did the dissection, I don't know, we may still have 2 species there, but sure, I kind of threw a curveball at us that they were both pregnant. One I was sure was going to be immature and was going to be much larger, Centrophorus granulosus species, and the common Gulper shark. And it was like, this thing shouldn't be pregnant at this size here. So,
right.
And the other one that was small and should have been mature was not.
Correct. Exactly. And all 3 of them look different. And I know with Gulper sharks, they change, and you know this too, they grow, they change. And so like if you look at a small one, an intermediate size, and a large one, they could be very different looking. And all 3 of the ones you had were all very different looking, but 2 we kind of thought might be the same species, and they turned out to be internally like wildly different. Then the one we were convinced was definitely something different, that turned out to be similar to one of the other 2. The 2 pregnant, it was one of the 2 pregnant ones we found.
Yeah, we didn't go easy on them.
No. They got thrown in
We definitely threw some loops at them in the beginning because it's something, we had a day of sort of the morning, like, well, here's the big picture. Now here's the hardest species that you could possibly try to identify.
Yeah.
Have at it. What do you think?
Yeah.
Well, how did like the participants, because like the participants, like, as you said, they're not scientists. How did they take on that challenge? Were they just like, well, I have no idea what I'm going to do? Did they just kind of give up, or did they actually like give it a good shot?
Well, I think more than half of them were scientists that participated, or scientists in training students.
Right.
And so they have the fundamentals down. Yeah. But Dave did an amazing presentation in the morning that sort of went down, breaking down how do you, if you have a shark, where do you start? Do you, does it have spines? What's the shape of the tail? Does it have this, what do the teeth look like? What are the dermal denticles? So going big and then kind of working down to the smaller things. So we told them we didn't really expect them to necessarily get down to the species, but we wanted to have them at least get down where they could identify them to as low as they possibly could. So if they could get to genus, that would be great. If they could get to the family, that would, even better. And so, they all had their books and we had printouts and they were all comparing notes and we had them team up, like who thinks it's this and who thinks it's that, and sort of split up along teams that way. So nice. And really they got into it and paired up in teams and really like did compare notes and like, what do you think this, and like move things around and did poking and prodding. So it was a really great it was a very nice transition from sort of a there's my motorcycle again.
Your ride's here.
From a classroom setting to a field/laboratory setting. A nice transition so that it never got dull. I think it was really fun workurshop.
I think the other thing, and just so people know, like, obviously the people there, Honduras is a Spanish speaking country. And so we basically had a translator. Gloria was doing the translation, and sorry, what was Gloria? I forgot Gloria's last name. Gloria. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Gloria. I forgot your last name. So many names, like all these names, everybody's names bunking around my head. But anyway, who did an excellent job translating. And so I don't think anybody really had any issues with the language barrier, and I've certainly done translations before I've done it in Swahili and Arabic. And if you can get through the Chinese, actually I've done Chinese too. So if you get through those, Spanish is pretty easy going from there. So it's pretty good.
It did help also. Gloria is a biologist. She's got her background or her bachelor's degree in biology. So it does help, I think, a little bit to have that, more of a working knowledge of the scientific terms. So having Absolutely. That, and I did my best to kind of keep things in Spanish as well. But it is always a challenge going back and forth. Because it doubles your time.
Yeah. She does. Yeah, but no, I mean, a lot of the good questions, we had during the breaks is like when you get the best stuff, 'cause you get a lot of interactions, people talking to you, asking you questions about different things and kind of, raising some issues. Like I know we talked a lot about Honduras, where they have hopefully they'll eventually work towards like a national plan of action, but with the young people there, I think it could have an impact is developing like an annotated checklist of the species you have in Honduran waters. That could be basically the go-to reference for developing it. And that'd be an immediate policy impact that people there could have and develop and stuff. So I think it was kind of neat because the young people there could see like there's something that's tangible. They could actually have an impact in the chondrichthyan stuff and policy. Do they have much of and we talked a little bit about it there, but do they have much of a policy right now on chondrichthyans, sharks and rays? And
on the books, Honduras is actually a shark sanctuary. It's illegal to catch and land sharks. Rays, there's no legislation on those, but so on paper, the Honduras does not have any trade, so there shouldn't be any trade of sharks. But we know there was amendment to the law. So the ban was passed in 2011. In 2016, it was amended to allow for incidental capture. But the incidental capture wasn't very well defined. And it's meant to be just in kind of one region of the country. And it wasn't very well publicized. So there's not and there's enforcement in some areas, but for the most part, it's kind of a little bit of a paper park. And so because there is, national legislation against landing or keeping sharks, there's no government record of landings because, technically it doesn't happen. So that's one of the things that is important and that we're emphasizing to the attendees is that that's kind of the role that we have as an NGO, is to help support where there's not the capacity to do these landings or these monitoring, because there technically are no landings and we're not able to measure that. We can go out and do these fishery independent surveys to get an idea of what the baseline is of the status of sharks and rays in the country. So that's one of the things that's important to do, where in the absence of sort of the government data or collecting the data that you need for national plans of action. That's where these kinds of surveys come in, because we need to know, obviously, what coastal sharks occur, but the deep sea is a whole other ball game. And there's little, not very much funding for the tropical reef associated and coastal species, and so even less for deep sea species.
Yeah, and the deep sea ones are obviously the more vulnerable ones because they tend to be slower growing, longer living, and all that compared to the nearshore species. So they're even a potentially more concern out there.
Exactly. Yeah. And what I found here is that the place where we went to try to catch the gulper sharks is just out from Tella Bay. It's not very far offshore. You can see it's a bit of a transit for the fishers, but you're close to shore, and 200 to 300 meters of water, and there's just there's at least 2 species of gulper sharks. We're catching the pups, so it might be a nursery area. We catch the adult females. So it's this really interesting place. And while right now I won't say nobody, because there is a targeted shark fishery in Guatemala for deep sea sharks, which is just around the corner. But at the moment, the Honduran fishers, nobody really wants it. But we can see in the future what's happening in the rest of the world with deep sea sharks is that there is global demand, and it's very high in targeted fisheries for deep sea sharks, and especially gulper sharks, because they have such high oil levels in their liver. So the global shark liver oil trade is kind of knocking on the door. So it would really only take, we know these species, what we saw, one of them had 1 pup. Yeah. And may not reproduce. I think the little gulper shark, they say that they produce 2 sharks every 2 to 3 years, 2 pups, and they live for a long time. So they have very low productivity, and once you knock down that population, it's really hard to recover. So we have a really great opportunity here to sort of protect an area that could be really important for the survival of the species.
You raise a question here, is that particularly in Central America, we have a lot of smaller countries that all border. Some border both Pacific and Caribbean, some just in one. But you have a lot of these smaller countries, and if, like you say, in Guatemala has a fishery going where Honduras doesn't, I'm not sure what Belize's current status is. But do you almost see like a regional, like I don't know if Central American or part of like a group of countries in Central America getting together and developing an overall strategy, or do you think it'd be difficult to pull together?
That is funny you should mention that. That is something that we definitely have on our radar. But there are very different forces at play in the different countries. So we have Honduras, which technically is shark sanctuary. They're not supposed to be catching, exporting. Guatemala has a very tiny piece of the Caribbean on this side. So while they do have a shark and ray fishery, it's something like 11 boats. So it's not that many. That being said, they are right on the edge. Like, they don't have very much territory there. So there is a bit of transboundary fishing that happens there. And then Belize is a small country with probably the fewest per capita fishers. And they have a shark fishery, but it is actually mostly for export to Guatemala. And then Mexico is a shark-eating country. And so while we don't have huge, and along that region, the shark fishery isn't big, and they're not really going for the deep sea sharks yet. They're a shark and a ray eating country. And Guatemala is a shark and a ray eating country. Belize is not. So there's like very different dynamics. But yes, there is we would like to see a unified close season for sharks, the same way that they do lobster and conch.
Yeah.
Those have been unified kind of across the region.
Yeah, I think Mexico would be a tough one relative to Central America because they are a shark eating kind of. They do huge fisheries. I'm more familiar with the Pacific than the Caribbean and the Gulf side, but they obviously do a lot of fishing for sharks. They eat a lot, but from at least if the Central American countries were more of a block, they could have maybe some more. I don't know, parity is the right word at this point in time to talk about, but have some kind of a.
Yes, exactly. And the Caribbean part of Mexico as well, these days it's like everything else, it's becoming more ecotourism and based. And so I think there is opportunity there because they have ecotourism with sharks and Playa del Carmen with the bull shark diving. There's ecotourism for the divers with the spotted eagle ray. And so the tide may be turning for those fisheries as well. And I think public sentiment is also changing. They're going away from killing and more towards keeping them alive.
Yeah. Isn't there off the Yucatan? Isn't there a whale shark ecotourism thing too?
Oh yeah, huge. Yeah, that's the biggest aggregation of whale sharks in the world. And it's off of just north of Cancun, Isla Mujeres.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now, but even like,
and that's a big bioreserve. They actually have that. That is a protected area, just where those whale sharks aggregate. So that is totally protected.
Right. I assume that's big tourist money for Mexico, is my guess.
Oh yes, for sure.
Yeah.
As long as I don't show up, then all the whale sharks will disappear and they'll never see them. So
we're gonna get you there, Dave.
Yeah, one of these days. So, but now even where you are in off of, I know Belize, I believe, and then Honduras, you guys do have a bit of a whale shark ecotourism.
That is an interesting story. Yes, probably up until about 10 years ago, it was a very big ecotourism draw in southern Belize off of Gladden Spit. The whale sharks came in a little bit different part of the year than the Mexico. I believe it was earlier in the year. And then here off the Bay Islands, especially Utila, there was also an aggregation. And that both of those sightings have gone down enough now that it's really not a reliable. In the past, you used to be able to say, "Come to Belize to see whale sharks during this time," and now you'll be lucky if you get out to see them. And it's a big shame because it really had become a very big part of the economy of southern Belize, and it was a pretty big part of the economy of especially Utila and the Bay Islands here. And we do get reports here and there. I went out searching with a friend for a whale shark that was sighted here a couple of weeks ago. So they do come around, but it's not in the same numbers that it was.
Do you think it's just kind of a decadal shift that they come, they go, they're here for a while? I know there's not like a lot of long-term data to show that type of stuff, but
I think so. The Gladden Spit Belize population, they were around the fish spawning aggregations, and those have been fished down pretty hard because whale sharks eat fish eggs and the other plankton in the area, and so there was a big opportunity there for the sharks to feed, and because those spawning aggregations have declined, there's just not as much food. And that's one thing that would be great if the spawning aggregations come back. Do we see the whale sharks come back? Here in the Bay Islands, I think the running theory is that it actually had to do with the land crabs that larvae. That's the local story. I can't be for sure about that. Whale sharks also feed on things like tuna spawn, and so it could be any number. It could be that the currents have changed, that the wrong temperature and whatever it was that they were eating just isn't here anymore, or whatever it was that was spawning isn't spawning in such big numbers, and it's just not worth it for them to come to this location anymore.
Yeah,
it's a big mystery. We have a lot of theories.
We're scientists. We always got theories.
Yeah, exactly. But a lack of food seems like a pretty good one. Most of the animals that we saw here in the past are juvenile males, so they're big still. They're whale sharks, but they weren't like the big mature females that you see in some other aggregations. And so these guys are trying to grow as fast as they possibly can. to get to reproductive size. And if the food's not there, if they're like teenage boys, basically, like if they can't just constantly eat, they're going to try and find somewhere else where they're going to have better snack.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff now with this workshop? Now you're going to have some kind of post workshop stuff. I know you're working on a video from this.
We hope so. Yes. So we were able to bring in a videographer to get a lot of good footage. So we'd like to we'll put out we'll be putting out news articles and blogs and things like that. And then from the videos, we should be able to put up some great like summary videos and social media posts and reels and things like that about the workshop. And then also with the Shark and Ray exhibit that our country coordinator, Anna Lucia, has put together, which is a Save Our Seas funded project. So we've also got some great outputs that will be coming from that one as well. And that's an exhibit that's traveling throughout Honduras this year. And then next year it's going to Belize. And so it's going to be translated into, this one's in Spanish and we're translating it into English. And then hopefully we can get into some of the other local languages like Garifuna and Maya and the local Creoles and things like that. So
nice.
Really nice opportunity to get some more Elasmo evangelizing.
Well, I know I posted some stuff on social media, and I know you'll probably be doing some more. Is there any website off the top people could go check it out just online now, or need to wait until it comes out?
We have information on our website. Our social medias are Instagram, Facebook, all those are YouTube. That would be the places. Okay. So we'll definitely be posting a link when we have those videos up.
Okay.
And the other thing that's part of this fellowship that funded the workshop is I'm trying to get out some satellite tags on some of these species as well. So I'm looking at the Atlantic 6-gill shark. I've got 2 out right now. Hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have some data, and then I've got 3 more to put out. So before the end of the year, I hope to have 5 tag sharks. And so we'll be putting out some information about that as soon as we get it as well.
Oh, great! Oh, that's really cool. So they'll be able to follow. There'll be a lot more. I think it's kind of great. You can have some follow up, because a lot of times these workshops end and everybody takes off, and that's like the last you hear of anybody on.
Exactly.
Well, like that.
Yeah, we've got a little WhatsApp group with all of the participants, and you provided a lot of really great resources for everybody. So a big mountain of shark references and taxonomy and identification guides and everything. So yeah, we'll definitely be keeping that group in the loop. And I also I still would like to get out and collect a few more of these organisms. We've got to get some more genetic samples so that we can start to really kind of nail down what we've got. And then working with Britt Finucci and others on the liver oil project as well. So we've got a lot of good stuff coming up.
That's nice. Great. That's really terrific stuff. Is there anything you want to kind of add on to our discussion here and everything before we go? Any other kind of thoughts or comments you have?
Well, first of all, thanks for making this happen, Dave. I think it was very successful. Like I said, we've been talking about this for about a decade.
Yeah.
And so it was really great that we were able to bring it together. And, we've been talking about replicating something like this in Belize, so that we can get a lot of our other partners. I think one of the nice things about the workshop also was that we talked a lot about how to take good photos. Yep. For identification. So even if you don't have the tools in front of you to be able to identify something, or you just don't know, how do you take a good photo for identification? Like not from the back, not on the side, not at an angle. It needs to be, these are the features that we're looking for, and so you need to have it this way. And then we did that great. We went to the fish market as well and talked to people who are selling fish and basically went through like what kind of questions do you ask, even if it's not something that there are no sharks and rays there because that's illegal. They don't sell sharks and rays, or not rays, but the sharks are illegal, and there's not really much consumption of the rays locally. But there were a lot of fish, and there were some interesting species. And so going to the people who are selling fish and asking the kinds of questions that you might need to know to find what you're looking for, like where are the fishers bringing this in? What do you see seasonal fluctuations and these numbers, and It's not just about sharks all the time. We like
Yeah.
fish too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, being able to just get out and it tells you a lot about your local ecosystem going to the fish market. I was very surprised to see that there was tilapia and like a big goldfish that's caught in the local lagoons. It's like an Asian and an African species, and it's being sold locally at the fish market. And so you get a really it is one of the ways to better understand your local marine ecosystem without necessarily having to get on a boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that was also, we had we did a lot of sharky stuff, but we also, I think it was a really nice, in-depth, different activity kind of workshop where we really made people think about bigger questions and how to answer questions.
I can just say on a personal note, I mean, I found it was my first time in Honduras. Found a wonderful place. People were awesome. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully, I made some new friends there, and nobody was saying like, "Oh, thank God he's gone finally." Stuff. But I had a really good time. And if you guys anyone's out there looking to go diving or go touristy someplace, I'd recommend Honduras. It was just a wonderful experience. I also didn't have to spend 3 days on a plane to get there like I did to Madagascar. So that was a huge win for me personally. And
that helps.
But yeah, it was an awesome time. And when the video comes up, we'll definitely post it out there, and we'll have someone else, someone from MarAlliance come on, Anna Lucia probably, and talk about the video. And shout out to Save Our Seas. She did a really terrific job with your traveling show there, Shark Show.
Yeah, it's on its way to the next town as we speak. It's in a truck, I believe.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. Cool. Well, Ivy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this wonderful workshop we had last week. And we're hopefully looking forward to seeing you again and doing it again somewhere, maybe Belize. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be sending you some fin clips in the mail.
Awesome.
Looking forward to seeing
I'm looking forward to that. It's always fun. So, great. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
I think the main couple of things was it was a terrific, really, as you heard her say, a really enthusiastic group of young people there, and a lot of these people that were there, most of them were under 30, and they were, in fact, I think pretty much. In fact, our youngest one was a high school student who was 13, and it was just really enthusiastic to learn as much as he could. And I think, and that's, we said, that's the foundation really of the future for like Honduras, having these young people there, and just it was the enthusiasm that I really found special, and also the people were just very warm, friendly people. It was my first time in Honduras. Had a wonderful time there, and a lot of it's just because the people were just really, really good, and just getting to know them, and but doing the different parts we talked about was the workshop as far as the lecture part or the learning to take photographs or the dissection. Everybody was just really enthusiastic about it. They wanted to learn. And that was probably the big take home.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this could be a platform to take off from in terms of learning about deep sea sharks within the waters of Honduras. Do you think that there are some students that showed interest in identifying or even working with fisheries to manage these types of shark fisheries? I
think some definitely, because they're pointing their careers. A lot of them are at that point. They're just kind of starting out. They're in college or just post college. But some of them are definitely. I think there'll be some that'll really take the sort of the bull by the horns here and really take off and do some stuff. It could be more than I think. But I think as we talked about, some of the people were more citizen science types that attended the workshops, and they learned, like the diving community there. They took the tools they took away with there will be helpful because they'll know, like, okay, I can contact this person or that person to get to know if I have some questions and stuff. And they learned, some of the basic skills that sound, is like just taking pictures. How do you take a picture to identify stuff?
Right.
And as Ivy said, like the lower you can get something down to, whether it's a family or a genus, if you get the genus, that's great. If you get them to species, it's even better. But a few of the groups, like we talked a lot about the Gulper sharks, that's a hard group. I mean, these guys, these young
even
people.
For you guys, like you.
Even for us, it's really hard. Yeah. So, but having them get that exposure will be important. Once you work on some of these tougher groups, when you get the easier ones, well, they're easier to deal. Yeah. So
now, let me ask you this. There's some divers there, like some scuba divers there, as there's a big scuba diving industry within Honduras. how often are they going to come across a deep sea shark? Like what are
Well,
what are you asking them to do in this case?
Well, the workshop wasn't just deep sea, though we focused a lot on the deep sea. It was just on
Okay.
basic identification.
Okay.
So even if they see coastal species, they'll get an idea on how to identify them. Now a lot of the common stuff, like some of the bull sharks and
Yeah.
the Caribbean reef shark and some of those, most of those guys, they can pick those off pretty easily. But it's when they see
Right.
the unusual thing, like maybe
Yeah.
offshore, they'll see a silky shark or something. Or when you get onto the rays are just wide open because nobody really pays any attention to them. But I think
Yeah.
after this workshop, there's going to be a lot more attention paid to the rays.
Oh,
And so
interesting.
I think that'll be something. And they'll learn what characteristics to look for. Like, how do I know, if I see a shark swim by, what
Yeah.
am I looking for to tell? And I had some people showed me some pictures of some sharks while I was there. They took diving, and I give my best. I mean, obviously when you're taking pictures diving, you can't get the shark to always, perform the way you want it to.
Move this way.
Yeah. Can you do that? But I did help a few of them identify. I gave my best guess what I thought some of them were. And which helped them because they definitely said, we don't usually see this one. Here's some of the ones we do see. We know what those are, but here's one we don't see. And so that was helpful for them. And then of course they do occasionally come across some of the deep sea stuff. But again, the main take home of the thing is what to look for: fin position, body color, proportions. And then if they do happen to have one, they find it even though they can't really catch them in Honduras, but if they come across one, they can take a picture of that might be dead or something. They'll know get some ideas what to look for. And I gave them a lot of resources that they can go to as well. And of course, now they got, better connections with Ivy. They know me.
Yeah.
And so
That'll
we just
help,
that'll help out. And then, I get a lot of stuff comes in too, Andrew, if I just go on for a second here, like, connections I've made decades ago, I still keep in touch with. They'll send me something they go, I haven't seen this. I've never seen this before. And sometimes that's where I find some of my lost sharks.
Yeah,
Somebody
that's
saw
true.
some.
Yeah, for sure.
So
now, it's interesting too, because like as this kind of takes off and you start to see more identifications by these groups, and maybe they end up teaching, other people that they know that are in the water a lot and may be able to see some of these sharks on a regular basis. The idea here is to start really understanding, the types of species you'll see, the number of species you see, the size, the health, and then hopefully eventually get to a point where you can include that not only in research and share it with the world, but also in national policies for fisheries to ensure that these are managed correctly, reducing bycatch, understanding that sharks are important, what they bring to, from the diving community perspective as an ecotourism attraction and so forth. I think that's it's really important as we start to move forward with this. And is that really like the long-term goal of doing workshops like these?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they're there for, to start them. And as I say, I think, a lot of young people tend to get, because they're starting out and they know, like, well, what do I do? How do I go? I want to have some impact, especially a lot of younger generation today who don't have a lot of patience. They want to like something impactful. And I talked quite a bit to several of them there about just developing something as a checklist that you guys could co-author. Bunch of them could co-author. And, some of the ones I've done in other countries, they've literally become right away. They're useful. They'll be used right away by policymakers. Like, here it is. And so that's something they could see very tangible on a shorter term. Maybe, they could do something there. So I'll be interested to see if some of them, I talked to Ivy a little bit about it too. We may do something there, but I think getting some of these young people, having them see like, hey, I can do something here that would have an impact. That'll be important. That'll be huge.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be huge. Well, this is wonderful. I do appreciate you and Ivy coming on the podcast to be able to show this. And obviously, deep sea sharks were covered. And as you mentioned, hopefully in the future, you'll see a picture and somebody like, I don't even know what this is. And you're like, well, I've never seen this either. Or this is something we've been looking for in the area for quite some time and looking for these lost sharks. And speaking of which, Dave, you have a series that we've both been working on that people can go see. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and where they can go see it?
Yeah, they can go to on my YouTube channel, Lost Shark Guy, and the series is Searching for Lost Sharks, Extinct or Alive, that Andrew and I have been working on, and with Denise Sotomayor, who's did the filming, and it's funded by the Save Our Seas Foundation, and it's basically to raise awareness on a larger platform through the YouTube people, these little known sharks that may be disappearing without people realizing them. And so I really appreciate people go out, watch the episodes, check out our episodes. And if you like them, please subscribe. That all helps with, trying to get future support for some of these projects to do future expeditions
and find more of these lost sharks.
Find more of them. Yep. And we're working on episode 5 right now. So it'll be out hopefully the end of the year, early 2026.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun for you guys to see it. I have to admit, we've had a lot of collaborations from various institutes and so forth, and the imagery we have. Like, not only is Denise's filming amazing, but also the imagery that we have and videos that we have of some of these like sharks that have been searched for, have been found, and so forth. They're amazing. So I highly recommend that you go. They're about 10, 15 minutes, if that. And so you can take a look at them at Lost Shark Guy on YouTube and check those out. I'll put the link in the show notes. But Dave, I want to thank you so much for doing this again with me. And of course, thank you to Ivy Baremore, who from MarAlliance. We'll put the links to Ivy, the organization that Ivy works for, MarAlliance, the great organization down in Central America, and something that you got to check out as well. So thank you very much for joining us. This has been another episode of the Beyond Jod podcast from Dave and I. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great day and happy conservation.